All right, guys, as promised, this is part 2 of my punch list inspection. Remember, part 1 we did the field. Part 2 we're going to do the cabinet. So I always start with the exterior, and I'm checking the caulk of the cabinet to the foundation. And I'm just going to go around the cabinet, and I'm going to see to make sure that we don't have any breaks in the caulk that would allow water intrusion or ants of any type. You can see that we got it caulked around the actual cabinet to cabinet, battery backup cabinet to the track signal cabinet. So that all looks really good. All right, so the cabinet's sealed. Let's go ahead and open up the door here. Okay, the door opens fine. All right. Let's just go ahead and start right here at the bottom here. First thing I'm looking at, that I always look at to begin with, is the field wires. And I make sure that we don't have any wires that are frayed out. That one's a little bit there, but nothing major. They're not frayed out and potentially touching the other terminals, causing a short of any type if it would get, bumped or whatever. But all the field terminals, and they're aligned really nicely. They're trained through the cabinet, so that's good. Checking my neutrals down here. We got the neutral and the ground bars. I'm just tugging them, but I want to make sure that they're secure there. We got a ground bar over on the other side, opposite side of the cabinet. I'm checking all those, pulling those and making sure that they're tight and secured well. They are. I can double check the ground bar above it. We did the neutral bar, now we're doing the ground bar. Making sure those are all tight in there. Same for over there. It's a little bit tighter fit there, but you can see they're in there. Same thing as far as the power is concerned. I'm making sure that they're not frayed out. Probably straighten that neutral up a little bit more. Get a little bit of a fray there. Maybe even the power a little bit, but nothing major. I don't have a wire that's sticking way out. Okay, so those are good and they're secure in their terminals. I'm checking these little suppressor boxes and making sure that they're in all the way, that they're not popping out. The flash transfer relays, they're all in, making sure they're not cracked. Okay, that looks good. We're right over here, so let's look at these. Have detection cameras here. And the main thing you're looking for detection cameras is when the field cable's coming in, these are Ethernet cables, you want to make sure that they have the metal grounded Ethernet connector end. And those 4 do. I've found them before where they weren't, and you need to have them grounded. So that's good. The Ethernet jumper cables that go from the end of those suppressors up to the processor up there, they're grounded also, so that's good. That's a good system there. So we're good on the cabling. Just keep working our way up. Actually, let's go work our way over to the door side. So on the door side, you've got your control and off switch. That if I would turn that off, that would kill power to the signal. Will kill power to inside the cabinet, to the controller. Sorry. Normal flash, if I put that in flash, it'll go to flash. Now these 2 things I've already tested prior, and the signal's running right now, so I don't want to mess with that. My light on and off switch, if I turn it off, you can see up there, and then there's another one down there. It's off currently. If I go ahead and turn it on, my light's on now, so that switch works. I'm not going to do it because it's running, but I can test my stop, my run, and my normal 3 toggle switch to make sure that it does stop time the signal. If I put it in stop time, and then those 2 are different configurations depending on how the signal's running, if it's in flash or not. The duplex and light fuse, you can see I've got a light right now. If I would unscrew that, which I'm going to, you're going to see that light go out. Okay. So that is off now. It's back on now, sorry. The heater, it's got a fuse for that too. If you listen down there, you can hear it running. If if I would undo that, it's off now. Okay, so that fuse is good. If these had call switches in here, I would test each one of these call switches and check the controller and make sure that the call was going into the controller. Same for the PED switches. If we had PED phases here, I test those PED phases and make sure that those calls actually go into the controller. So that's the door side of it. Breakers, I've already tested them, but you've got your main breaker, you've got the return back from the battery back up to the cabinet breaker, and then you've got your breaker for some of your auxiliary devices. I did check those. We'll check the battery backup here soon by testing it out, by shutting off the main power, which makes the battery backup think that there's no power coming into the, like if there's a power loss from the utility side. We'll test that shortly. All right, so continue on up here. The door, or I'm sorry, the cabinet shelving, pull-out shelf, I just make sure it pulls out, it's not falling out. I've had a couple that have fallen out over the past month or so. So luckily those are fixed. But yeah, just make sure that it pulls out and opens fine, and it does. My pedestrian cables coming from the field into the connector board, I make sure that those are all connected good. I'm not able to pull them out at all. And they've been running for a while now, but just always want to make sure that those are good and that those are good as well. That's your power to the board. All right, so that's good. Let's go over here to the TS2 power box here. So this has got all lights lit up. That's a good thing. And if it didn't, you would have an issue anyway. So that's good. Onto the controller. We got power. It's running. We'll come back to that here shortly. The conflict monitor. It's running good. Since this is a TS2 cabinet, I'm going to have SDLC communication going, which means I'm going to see a transmit and receive there. I'm going to see it there. I'm going to see it there. And on the processor, it's blinking over there. And if you didn't have that, you would have problems also. But this is just verifying that you've got SDLC communication going. Over here on our IP power strip, I just want to make sure that what we have plugged in actually does have power applied to it. And you would go up here, and if you have a plus in the first position, that means number one has power to it, the number one terminal there. If you go over here to number two, that means the number two has power going to it. So 3, 3. This last one is 8. And if you go all the way down, you got a plus in the 8 position. So those all, wherever you have stuff plugged into, it's got power to it, so that checks good. And this last part, these are switches that are always on, and that's where I run my LCD screen for my video. Okay, so that all checks good. I've got lights on to my power for my Ethernet switch. I've got lights on that's the power for the processor of the video, that's on. And then I've got lights on for the actual switch itself. That all checks good, so we've got power to all that stuff. This is your cell modem up here. If you do have a cell modem, you can see that it's the Ethernet lights are lit up, so that means something's going on correctly. And you've got your power switch blinking over there, which I assume that means it's working, because I was able to connect to it remotely. So that's all good. Over here is your, this is your Polera PED module. This is where this is how it processes all the button pushes and provides basically all the information that it needs to run properly. So I can always just go over here and hit next and go to status. And that's just telling me right there that my status of my PED buttons, 2 phase 2, 4 phase 4, to phase 6, and then there's phase 8. If I hit the next button, I should get over to phase 8. There we go. I'll hit back. So it recognizes all the buttons, so that's good. So I'm going to select to back out of there. And then you can get system information, you can get SDLC status, which if we didn't have SDLC status, then your buttons wouldn't be showing up down in the controller if it was malfunctioning, which it's working fine, so that's good. When it comes to the detection part of it, whether it be detector cards or, I know you can't see it, but we've got video processing here on the monitor. The main thing I'm doing is whenever there is a car pulling up either in the zone, or if I have a detector card lighting up, meaning it's detecting a car, I'm going to come down here and verify that the controller is receiving that call and is calling the correct phase. Now, I've done all that work prior when we first did the turn on, so that all checks out fine. But that would be something that you would want to spend a little time on to make sure that we don't have a incorrect phase being called and that all zones are calling into the controller. Let's see here. Up here is our thermostats. One is for a overheating. If the cabinet is overheating for some reason, it puts a call in to the controller, and we can check that by just turning it. You should hear it click. As I turn to that point, you should hear it click over on the over here. This is one of the relays. Let's watch it here. Did you hear that? There it is. Over temp alarm. Okay, so I'm just turning that to where it gets past the threshold that it needs to be at for the temperature, and it will kick into the controller. Now, what I should have done prior to doing this is to check these alarms. I should have cleared out the alarms in the controller. So let's go do that. Let's go to the utilities. I'm sorry, let's back out of here. Let's go to reports. Let's go to alarms, and you can see the C button clears it. Let's hit the C and E to enter the clear. Okay, so we cleared that all out. Now let's back out. Let's do that again. So if you go back in here right now into reports and alarms, you see there's nothing in there right now, so let's back out one time. Let's do this again. Sorry, it's getting loud. All right, so I triggered that. Let's go into our alarms. Okay, I turned it on and then turned it back off. You can see it registered as special status 2. So to verify that our alarms are being called correctly, we go to our print. And over on the far left side, you've got D connector notes. And you can see right there, over temp alarm is special status 2, and that registers fine, okay? Let's go to cabinet door open. The cabinet door is the top one right here. So if I push that, I'm sorry, that's the lights. If I hit that, that's your door alarm. So if I go back in, if I F out one time and go back into the alarms, now I've got a special status 1 off, and now it's back on. So if the door is open, that means the status is going to be on. And let's just verify that that was on the notes here. Yep, status 1 was cabinet door open. Status 3 is if you would call the controller to do a detector reset. I'm not going to go through all of that to test that all out because there's no detector cards in there to call. Detector 4 is on battery. Now 5 is low battery, and I won't have a way to test that unless I just let it run till this thing goes dark or gets close to being dark, and I'm not going to do that. So let's check the battery that it actually puts a call in. So this is your main switch here. This is coming from the utility before it hits the battery backup. I'm going to go ahead. It's running fine right now. Okay, it continues to run. Put that back up so that it restores power. If I hit F there and go back into the alarms, Okay, this did not register a status 4 on or off, which probably means that something over here is not wired correctly in our new, oops, drop the keys, in our new battery backup alarm here, our battery backup that we installed. It's the alpha that we installed here. Okay, sorry. There, need 2 hands. All right, so let's watch this again. Okay, right now we've got 117 volts on the input, 117 volts on the output. Let's do this again. I'm gonna kill power. All right, it's still running. Let's come back over and take a look at this again. We've got 0 volts on the input, 119 volts on the output. Scroll over screen. Oops, there we go. Battery voltage is 50.3, 50.2, so it's slowly dropping, but it's definitely keeping us sit on battery. So the battery backup is working, but here are the alarms, and I'm guessing something's not wired correctly to do that, and that would be something we'll have to look at to see why that's not being called. All right, but the main thing is the battery backup's working. That's what we want. All right, put that back in operation, and just double checking. Yeah, we don't have the alarm. Okay. I'm also not going to check this next one, but status, where's it at there? Status 6 is SHA 1250 fail, and that's if we would happen to lose this device here. We got, see, you can see down there, it gets a couple wires that come off of that, and if that fails, that puts the call into the D panel, which is over here, which gets transferred over to the D connector, which gets logged into the alarm. I'm not going to check that because it means our signal's going to go dark. All right, so far we just got to check the battery backup status alarm as to why that's not being placed into the controller. All right, so that's good. Conflict monitor, I like to make sure that we have our components that are in the controller to have the exact same time setting. Now, the nice thing in the TS2 cabinet is your components, well, I know definitely your conflict monitor, it gets its time for the controller. So whatever the controller is, your conflict monitor is going to match. My finger up there, there it is going to match right to it. 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. So it's spot on, and it gets through the SDLC connection. It gets its time from the controller. So there's no question whether if you would come across a problem and you're trying to determine when the fault actually occurred, you actually have those two are going to be in sync with each other. So that's nice. Other than that, I think I just, as far as me as timing, I just check all the time and make sure that everything looks fine as far as time is concerned, and that it runs, you know, what's going on in here is actually translating out to the field. And since I've been here before already to verify, it is all working fine. But that's some of the things that I'm looking for when I'm doing my inspection. Oh, by the way, you want to check to make sure you have a filter in place in the cabinet door. And then other than me tidying up this cabinet, you know, I've got a little bit of OCD issues, but I make sure that we got everything nice and tidy. And so when the person comes here, or whoever it may be, it's easy to get to everything, and you don't have cables lying all over the place. But that's not on the contractor or Mobitrex or anyone like that. That's my preference. And I'll follow up and do that at a future time. But other than that, that takes care of our punch list for the cabinet. And I'll see you guys next week.